Hey, it's good to see you. Um, shit. I'm sitting here waiting for this to dry. There was something else I was going to tell you. Oh, the drips. If you hear anything dripping, I just took a shower and it was kind of dripping a little bit, but I think it's about stopped. I just took my nail polish off. I am trying this Orly Bonder rubberized base coat. I thought I would give it a try. It looks kind of orange in the bottle, but when you put it on, it doesn't look like that. So it feels really weird. It definitely, even after it dries, it feels kind of sticky. I keep messing with it like it's totally dry, but it feels sticky. It's really weird. I don't know how I feel about it, but I thought I would try it under some nail polish and see how it does. Since I'm having a hard time finding the Revlon Quick Dry Base Coat, and when I do find it, it's like $15 a bottle, which I don't really want to pay. Normally it's like $5 a bottle. But I really like it because it dries really fast. It prevents color transfer to your nails, and it seems to work really well. But since I'm having trouble finding it, I thought I would just give this one a try from Orly. But anyway, somebody asked me to do a video about parenting advice. Do I have any parenting advice? That is kind of a minefield. I find that being a parent in general is kind of a minefield. I think especially if you're a mom, and I'm not sitting here having a pity party because I know it's hard for dads too, especially if you're a single dad. And I know a single dad who's raised 2 kids by himself for the last 12 years or so. And it's, that comes with its own challenges. It really does. But it's like the saying, I don't know if you've ever heard it. A dad who knows his kid's pediatrician's name is a saint. A mother who doesn't know the kid's pediatrician's name is a monster. It's like you just have this whole other level of expectations when you're the mom. You're supposed to just know everything. You're supposed to have everything together. You're supposed to just be on the ball and you have to have your shit together all the time. And if not, then you're terrible and you're going to be judged for it and you're going to feel bad about yourself. There's all the guilt. You constantly, second guess yourself. Oh, should I have done that? Should I have said that? Should I have let him do that? Oh my God, there's so much of that. I'll tell you the best advice. If you want to be a perfect parent, I will go ahead and give you the spoiler now. If you want to be a perfect parent, don't have children. Because it seems to me there are 2 kinds of people. And my Aunt Mary used to say this. My great Aunt Mary said this. She always wanted children, but she and her husband were not able to have children, unfortunately. And she really wanted to have kids, but they were not able to. But she said, yeah, there is no parenting expert like a person who never had kids. They know it all. They are perfect parents, and they can tell you exactly what you're doing wrong because they've never had to do it. And also, and I'm not calling out names, I'm not stepping on any toes, but also people who produce children but are not raising the children and someone else is raising the children, they also tend to be perfect parents, and they will tell you everything that you're doing wrong, especially if you're raising their children. Yes, they will be the saint to mommies, the saint to daddies, who will, place blame and sit on their throne and look down upon you and judge every move you make with your children. Yeah, because, they don't ever have to put it into practice. They've never been in the trenches. They've never done the work of raising any children. So it's really easy to sit there and say, I would never have done that. If I were raising those kids, take them, raise them. Yeah, watch them run. I would never do that. I would always do this. I would never do that. Yeah, it's really easy. So it's super simple to be a perfect parent if you don't have children. It really is. And I'm not bashing people that don't have children. I'm not, trust me. I had my first child at 31. Okay. I was never having kids. I was not. I said up until I was 30, I don't want to have children. I don't. And then at the time I was married to a man who had 3 kids already. And, they lived with us off and on during that time. And I said, I don't want any children. But then I turned 30 and I don't know. It's like when I turned 30 for the first time, I kind of felt like a grown up. And it kind of hit me, if you ever do want to have a child, you're 30 now. You might want to think about that. So I did have a child at 31. And then I had a second child at 35. And yeah. First of all, and I follow this advice myself. This is something I started doing with my younger son. And I've said this before. I would not spend a lot of time online looking for parenting advice on message boards like babycenter.com, if that still exists. That was the thing back when my younger son was little. All it ever did was make me feel bad about myself. All these parents, all these mommies, all these harvests on there. It's like a pissing contest with these women, these mommies. You know, they're comparing, well, my child did this at 3 months. Oh, that's a shame. Mine did it at 2.5 months. Really? Mine did it at 2 months. Is that normal? Oh, they do that. Is that normal? My baby was walking before it was born. Is that normal? My child came out speaking 3 languages. Is that normal? They're looking for like accolades or a trophy or something. I don't know. I found that I learned nothing from these message boards. I learned nothing useful, and it just made me feel like a shitty parent. You know, because I don't have a super baby. You know, I don't, he's not the second coming of Christ. He's just a regular average baby. You know, he does stuff on his own time. And one thing that made me feel really shitty was my older son had no interest in walking. None. Literally none. We would pick him up, you know, try to help him out a little bit. And then, you know, he would take some steps, you know, and then you let go and he would just sit back down and look at you like, what was that about? I'm fine right here. He didn't crawl. He rolled everywhere he wanted to go. He would roll, and he was damn good at it. He could roll like you wouldn't believe. He got everywhere by rolling. He had no interest in walking. He had no interest in crawling. And I was still going on babycenter.com, and it was making me feel like, oh my God, is he developmentally delayed? What is wrong with him? Why is he not, you know, he's not pulling up to furniture. He's not doing this. He's not doing that. He rolls everywhere. What the hell? So I felt really bad. He had the greatest pediatrician, though. I loved her to death. Oh my God. Unfortunately, she retired before my younger son came along, but she was so great. She was like this kind of a hippie earth mother type, you know. She had on the tie-dye and the Birkenstocks, and she was so laid back. I loved her. Just like, calm down, look. He's fine. He is not developmentally delayed. He is totally fine. Look, he is doing things his own way. He is doing his thing. I don't see any reason to be concerned. And I'm going to tell you, I wouldn't have believed it if I hadn't seen it myself. Your children will surprise you. I'm telling you, no matter how many children you have, they will each do at least one thing that just shocks the hell out of you. Like, oh my God, wow. This child, my older son, who is now 17 and walks just fine, thank you very much. If your child is late, if your child is late in walking, do you see a lot of adults crawling? No, we all figure it out eventually. I mean, if there's a problem, obviously, you know, if there's some sort of delay, or obviously you want to get that dealt with. But I'm talking about, you know, how many adults do you see not walking? They'll figure it out when they're ready. But my older son, this was crazy. I'm telling you, one day he couldn't walk. Literally, the next day, that boy stood up and took off. Like, whew. Within 3 days, he was running. And I wouldn't have believed it if I hadn't seen it myself. He went from rolling. He didn't pull up on furniture. He didn't crawl. He didn't do the little rocking back and forth on his hands and knees. He didn't do any of that. None of it. I joked. I said, he must have been practicing in his crib at night when I thought he was asleep. He literally just stood up and took off. Didn't hold on to anything. He walked like he had been walking forever. And within 3 days, he was running. He would fall down when he tried to run because it's like his legs wouldn't quite go fast enough. But he was trying to run. Before the week was out, he was running. I'd be damned. I wouldn't have believed it if I hadn't seen it myself. It was crazy. But you know what I learned from that? Don't worry about what the internet says your baby should be doing. Don't worry about what the internet says you should be doing. Whether you're the mom or the dad or the caretaker, guardian, whatever. Don't worry about it. Because everybody on the internet has their own opinion, as you well know. Everybody has an opinion. It may be far-fetched, it may be stupid. Everybody has an opinion on there. Don't worry about it. You will drive yourself crazy reading that stuff. Talk to your parents, talk to your mom, whoever you trust, to give you good advice on raising kids. If you have somebody, talk to your child's pediatrician, get a second opinion from another pediatrician, whatever you want to do. But stick to those people and don't worry about what the internet says. It will just drive you insane. So my best advice would be, if you want to be a good parent, don't go to the internet to look for answers. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it if, you just have a random question about, like a rash or a bug bite or something. But I still think you'd be better off letting a doctor look at it, because again, the internet can give you incorrect information. To be a good parent, you have to be patient. You have to listen. You have to put your needs aside a lot. You're going to have to sacrifice. You're going to have to sacrifice money, time, sleep, energy, everything. It's not, once you become a parent, it's kind of, in my opinion, it's kind of a fine line, because I know some parents go too far with it. In my opinion, some parents do go too far with it, where you have completely just put your life on the back burner for the last 20 years to cater to your child. And as the saying goes, if you raise a God, you will be serving him the rest of your days. You do not want to put your child absolutely first forever. You can't do that. Obviously, when they're a baby, they need you completely. They are completely helpless. They do need you. But you also need to teach them to do things for themselves, like clean up after themselves. That is one thing that I will admit I did not do as good of a job with my kids as I should have. It's easier to just pick up the toys, than to take 20 minutes to get the toys up, and you have to wait for them to do it. I will admit I did not follow up with that as much as I should have, but I'm trying to make up for lost time now. The rule in my house is, if you make a mess, you clean it up. And if you don't do it right, you do it over. So you can either do it right the first time, or you can do it again. In fact, I'm dealing with my younger son right now. He has a different chore Monday through Friday all summer. And it's the same every week. Monday is a thing, Tuesday, and it's the same every week. But on Friday, he did not do his chore accurately. And he supposedly did it today. It's still not good enough. So he's going to be doing it again tomorrow. And he's going to keep doing it until he actually does it correctly. I'm not going to do it for him. He is going to do it correctly. And everybody has very strong opinions about what you should expect your children to do. I don't want to raise two adults who leave messes everywhere they go. The kind of people that just leave a trail of stuff when they walk in the door. They throw their coat down, they throw their backpack down, or whatever. Their shoes, their socks, they just leave a trail. I don't want to raise two people that do that. I wouldn't care if they were boys or girls. I don't want to raise any kids to do that. Because if they ever live with someone else, that other person is going to have to live with that, and it's not fair. You leave wet towels on the floor. That's one thing I have never tolerated with my children. That is one of my huge pet peeves, is leaving a wet towel on the floor. That right there will piss me off instantly. And neither of my children, they don't do that. They don't do that at all. They know that they have to hang up their wet towels. And wet washcloths have to be wrung out and put on the side of the tub. They're very good about that. I have trained them very well. They do that 100% of the time. That is one thing they always do. But yeah, I don't want to raise slobs. I mean, you just have to look at it like, what kind of adults do you want to send out into the world? You also want to teach them compassion. You want to teach them conversation skills. You want to teach them how to listen, and not just listen to respond, but listen to understand what that person is saying. I have never used baby talk with my children. I know a lot of people do that, the whole goo goo gaga thing. I never did that. I would always speak to them with regular regular English. I thought it was important for them to hear that and to understand how to speak proper English from the time they were small. I read lots of books to them. We would read books together. I wanted them to learn how to read and how to write. Their penmanship is not great though. I tried with the penmanship. Lord God, I tried. Their handwriting is not great, but I tried. But they're good readers, they're good spellers, they're good conversationalists. I hear that all the time. Your kids, they make eye contact. Their teachers say this, they make eye contact. They can carry on a conversation with an adult about any topic. That's amazing. This is because we've always done it. And especially my older son and I, we will have these debates and these theoretical discussions about, would you rather have this or that? Would you rather this happen or that happen? And my younger son will get in on it, and we just have these conversations. We just talk about whatever. We tell funny stories. I encourage them to communicate verbally with people. Look them in the eye. Listen to them. Understand, because so many young people, from my experience, so many young people can't do it. They just can't talk to people. And it's such a basic skill that you're going to need the rest of your life. So I tried to work with them on that. Teach them how to talk to people. Teach them how to read. Teach them how to think about things on their own and come up with their own conclusions. My parents always told me when I was growing up, don't believe everything you read. Don't believe everything you see on TV. This was before the internet. And I would add that to it. Don't believe everything you see online. It is up to you to figure out what's true. You need to find the answers for yourself. Don't just believe whatever people tell you. And I've tried to pass that on to my children. You need to determine the truth for yourself. You don't just believe it because somebody told you to believe it. You need to figure out on your own how you feel about things. To be a good parent, love your children. And it sounds overly simplistic and kind of Pollyanna-ish, I guess, to say just love them. Just love your kids. Don't let them ever wonder how you feel. Tell them you love them every day. I never heard that growing up. My parents never told me they loved me. My mom, the only times she has ever told me in my whole life, I'm 48 and a half, the only times she has ever told me that she loved me was when somebody in the family had died and she was calling me to tell me so. She was calling to tell me someone had died. That's the only time I ever hear it. So if I ever hear her say that, I get a knot in my gut and I just want to say, okay, who died this time? Because she never says it any other time. My family is a little dysfunctional. We'll just leave it at that. But now I will say this, as my dad has gotten older, he tells me he loves me all the time. When I was growing up, I never heard it. But he is trying to make up for that. As he gets older, he's different. He's changed quite a bit. He's mellowed out a lot. And he tells me he loves me and he's proud of me. I never heard that growing up. I never heard it from either of them. And my brother didn't either. And I'm just saying, it would have been nice to hear that every now and then. So another way you can be a good parent is to spend some time, and I've done this, spend some time looking back over your own childhood and figure out what strengths and weaknesses might have been present in your family situation, whatever it was. And most people's family situations is dynamic. It changes over time. There might be divorces, remarriages, stepbrothers and sisters, half brothers and sisters, whatever. Things can change over time. So look at the people who raised you and try to figure out the good and the bad, because no parent is perfect. Nobody gets it perfect, and you're not going to either. So, but what you can do is try to learn from your parents or caregivers the good things they did and the bad things. Try to avoid the bad things. Look for those patterns in yourself. If that's how you grew up, you may tend toward those behaviors, good or bad. But you have to be vigilant. You have to be aware. One thing that I saw a lot from my dad, when I was growing up, if he had a bad day at work, he would come home and take it out on all of us. He'd be very irritable. He would yell at you for no reason. He would just become very, very irritable and just be like that all night. And I catch myself I have snapped at my kids before when it's like, and I would realize as soon as I did it, they had nothing to do with that. You just snapped at them and it had nothing to do with them. And I apologized. I have apologized to my children on numerous occasions for biting their head off for no reason. I'm sorry. That had nothing to do with you. I do apologize. I am very sorry that I yelled at you. Don't be afraid to apologize to your children. It will mean more to them than I think you realize. If you can say, I'm sorry, you know. Otherwise, they may feel like there's something wrong with them. Like, I was just sitting here and they came in here and screamed at me, you know. And a child doesn't want to think that their parents are not perfect. So it's, a lot of children will go to, well, then there must be something wrong with me. I must be to blame for something. No. And if they can hear from you an apology, it can make them feel better. It would mean the world to them. It would have meant a lot to me. But I never got an apology. I will say that my mom did a few times. I can remember my mom apologizing to me for yelling at me. Same thing, like I don't know, she was having a bad day and she just yelled at me or whatever, and then came back later and apologized. I do remember her doing that several times. My dad never did. But it's funny because, yeah, now my relationship with my mom is non-existent, and I have a very good relationship with my dad, and he's changed drastically since then. So it's weird. So things change over time. And I try to look at both of my parents and understand how they grew up. You know, look at how your caregivers grew up. What were their childhoods like? What do you know about their childhoods? Are there patterns that are repeating from one generation to another? Are they good patterns or bad patterns? If they're bad, you can make an effort to break that cycle. And if they're good, you can make an effort to continue those patterns, whichever they are. But it takes a lot of soul searching. And it's not something you're going to find in an online quiz or a book, or, you know, you're going to have to just figure it out for yourself. Spend time with your kids, make time with them. Don't let a device entertain them all the time. You know, spend time with them, put the phone away, put the tablet away. Just spend time together. You know, get down on the floor and play with them. They will love that. They will love that. Just something simple. Just get down there and, you know, play with some Matchbox cars or put together a puzzle or whatever they want to do. You know, go to the park, whatever they want to do. Just go spend some time with them. Just love them. They will never regret it, and you will not regret it either. Those are the things you will look back and remember, because they grew up in a blink. Oh my Lord. My older son now is like 6'3" and is quite a bit taller than me. And when he talks, he sounds like a grown man. I mean, and it seems like just yesterday I was reading Dr. Seuss to him, and he was in like kindergarten or something. It's crazy how fast they grow up. Oh my God. So savor these moments. Put the phone down. Give them your complete attention, because if you're not giving them your complete attention, they're going to know. They know you're not really paying attention. And I'm not saying you got to be like Harvest and like completely dedicate your life to them, but make time for your kids. You know, and don't be so quick to judge other parents, because every situation is very, very different. I mean, unless they've got the kids smoking dope and they're putting tattoos on it, you know, don't be so quick to judge them and, you know, shake a finger at them or think you're better than them, because everybody's situation is different. What works for you may not work for them, and vice versa. Everybody, you just kind of have to handle it your own way. And you also have to understand that every child is different, just like every adult is, you know, we're all different. And the way you parent your children may be very different. I know when I was growing up, I have a brother who's 4 years older. He and I are like polar opposites. We have nothing in common. I mean, absolutely nothing in common. We have the same parents. That's it. We don't look anything alike. We don't act anything alike. If you were to see us together, you would never even guess we were related. Like, we look nothing alike. But, so my mom, she used to say, well, you know how I would punish y'all? I would make you come inside and I would make him go outside, because y'all hated that. because he hated being outside and I hated being stuck inside. To punish me, she would make me sit in a chair in a corner and do nothing because it drove me crazy. And for my brother, she would make him go outside and play because he hated that. He just wanted to be inside. He didn't want to go out there. So just, and don't assume, because here's the mistake I made with my kids. And I know better. When I was pregnant with my younger son, I just assumed it would be the exact same experience. Night and day. Huge difference between my children. Humongous difference. The pregnancy was very different. As a baby, they were very different. They were just so different. It was two completely different experiences. So if you okay, say your first baby was like an easy baby, and don't assume that the next one will be. Because my second child came out like Rosemary's Baby. It was like, he came out screaming and didn't stop for over a year. Oh my God. Physically, he was fine. The doctors could find nothing wrong with him. He just cried and cried and cried. Like, oh dear God. I didn't sleep for like a year. And I went back to work full time when he was 6 weeks old. So I was like a daggone zombie for the first year of his life. I was just a zombie. So, yeah, don't assume. And also, if your first child is difficult, I don't like that term, but you know what I mean. Your second one may not be. I mean, it may be totally different. My mom always told me, and this kind of hurt my feelings, and I don't think she ever got it. She said if she had had me first, she would have had no more children. Because she said I was a terrible baby. You were a terrible baby. Like, sorry. I sound like she found me on the clearance rack at Walmart or something. Like, I'm sorry. But she said, just be glad. You better be glad I had your brother first because he was a very easy baby. And I thought you would be the same, but you were a terrible baby. You were a nightmare. If I'd had you first, I would have had my tubes tied and I would have never had another child. Objectively, I don't know that I was that bad, but my brother apparently never cried, never fussed. He was like the perfect child. He was just always very quiet and didn't ever really have a problem, apparently. And then I came out like the Tasmanian devil, and because she said before she had me, she always wondered, she said, I always wondered what all the fuss was about. People talked about having children like it's so hard, and your brother was just so easy, like it was nothing. Well, then I had you, and I figured out what everybody was talking about, and I figured out why they said it was so hard to raise children, because you were definitely a pain. If she ever talks about me as a child, it's all bad. It's like all negative. It sounds like the most horrible thing anybody could ever go through to have to raise me because I was so awful. And I don't know if that's true or not. Maybe don't talk to your kids like that. I've told my kids, like, y'all were very different, but I would never describe either of my children as a terrible baby, because that's a horrible thing to say to somebody. Passionate, very vocal, but not terrible. I have a feeling, and the pediatrician said it's possible that my younger son had like maybe a kink in his intestines. Something was causing him pain, but there was no indication that that was the case. But maybe it was something like that was causing pain, and eventually it just, fixes itself and they're fine. But he was growing fine, healthy, everything looked good. But he just cried a lot. And he wouldn't sleep very long. So, but that's not, if you have an issue like that with your child, it doesn't mean you're a bad parent. It doesn't mean that you're necessarily doing anything wrong. And it will really test your patience. But that's why I say you got to be patient, and don't be afraid to ask for help. Don't be afraid to get help from your parents, your significant other, your friends. You don't have to go through it alone. If you need help, don't be afraid to ask for it. Whether it's, can you babysit for the night? I need a break. Or, can you go to the store for me? Anything that would help you. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Raising kids can be, it's going to take a lot of your time and energy. And, Yeah, don't be afraid to ask for help. There are people, if you have people in your life that want to help, take them up on that. Take them up on it. It will make them happy, make them feel good. It will help you. It's good for everybody. If anything that reduces your stress is going to be good for you and your child. Because, yeah, your child doesn't want you to be stressed out either. So, okay, that's about all I've got. In order to be a good parent, I think really you should just focus on being a good enough parent because you're never going to be perfect. Do not strive for perfection. You will be constantly disappointed in yourself. Try not to keep making the same mistakes over and over. Try to make new mistakes every time. Try to learn from your mistakes with your children and try to fix them and do better next time. And don't be afraid to tell your child you're sorry. It doesn't mean that you're weak. It means that you are human and you are acknowledging to them that you messed up. And I think it will mean more to them than you know. Learn from your parents or your caregivers, good and bad. Don't go to the internet for answers on being a parent. This video accepted. Here I am telling you on the damn internet. I'm not judging you, okay? I tell you what, raising children is a very humbling experience. And do not let the sanctimommies and the sanctidaddies out there lecture you and tut you. You know, stay away from those people. If they're not offering you any constructive advice, they're just being dicks. Just avoid these people. But I have sympathy for people who don't have children. Trust me, because I used to be a child protective services investigator when I was in my 20s, before I was married and before I had kids. And I know what it's like to have to deal with parents when you yourself have not had children. And I would have to investigate reports against parents or guardians, anyone who was taking care of children. And I got asked probably 3 or 4 times a week, well, do you have children? How many children do you have? Like, and I found the best way to answer it would be to just say, I am not here to discuss my situation. I'm here to discuss these allegations. We need to go over your case. That's what I'm here to talk to you about. Because some people really look at it like, well, if you don't have children, you have no right to come here and ask me these questions. Like, well, actually I do. According to the state, I do have a right to come here and ask you these questions. And I'm going to ask you these questions. That's my job. That's what I have to do. So we can make this easier, we can make it hard. It's whichever way you want to do it. But I had a lot of people judge me because I was a CPS investigator who had never had children, and somehow like you develop a golden uterus after you have children, and all of a sudden you can speak on the matter or something. I don't know. That's kind of how I looked at it. But yeah, I know what it's like to not have children and have people like want to get in your face over it, and that's not cool either. You know, let's not do that. So to be a perfect parent, either don't have children or don't raise children. Then you can be an expert on parenting and all the perfect things, and you will do everything perfectly. You will have all the perfect advice. That's the only way you can be a perfect parent. So that's all I have to say. Just a train of thought here, just a flow of consciousness, stream of consciousness as I sit on the edge of the tub with my hair in a towel. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope that you have a wonderful evening. I hope at least some of this helped somebody. I don't know. I do not have all the answers. You know, I screw up daily. If you have children, you're going to screw up all the time. And it's okay. Just try to do better next time. Make all new mistakes every time. That's what I always say. Make all new mistakes every time. Thank you so much for being here. I really hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you again soon.